Christina, what if the present moment isn't a moment at all?
Can I think
What if,
about that for a moment?
in other words, what if now is not in time? Anyway,
I'm willing to listen. I'll hear you out.
so welcome to the Secret of the Present Moment. And you're with us here at Mastering Thought, where we invite you to soar with us. In this episode is part one of three. So today we're going to talk about the secret of the present moment.
Hmm.
And in part two, we're going to discover how to enter presence. And a kind of a pro tip, this does not involve meditation or mindfulness.
Hmm.
And then in part three, we're going to talk creating the present. And as you might guess, I have my own unusual interpretation.
Maybe unusual, but testable. Maybe proven true.
We'll see. We'll see. So, so the question that arose for me, and I'll tell you the story of how this happened. What if your brain knows what's coming before you do? So, back in 1997, there was a researcher, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing this right, Radin. Anyway, what they did was they used galvanic skin response, which is skin conductance, which can be measured with electrodes, and they hooked people up, and then they would show them a series of computer generated, where there were random pictures, and the random selection was generated by a computer. So the researchers didn't know, and the subjects didn't know what order the pictures came in. And
Hmm.
embedded in the pictures, and these were very quickly cycled,
Hmm.
and embedded in the
Like too
pictures,
fast to even register, or
I don't know, but they were
okay,
quick. I
okay,
think they did register, but it was like, a car and then a baseball field and then, rapid like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Okay. Embedded in the pictures was one that was emotionally disturbing. Now, what they discovered was, like so many of these things just freaked them out, was the galvanic skin response measured a response from the amygdala, which is fight or flight, prior to the person seeing the emotional picture.
Hmm. So it's like they were
Very
reacting to it before they saw it.
well. It wasn't like that. That's exactly what happened.
Hmm.
They
So
reacted
there's
to
like
the
an
picture,
intuition about it.
something like that, exactly. And
Yeah.
and as you know, the last episode we did was on quantum physics, and we had our little experience with Grok's AI.
Hmm.
And so I've been thinking about this, and I was thinking of this in terms of quantum physics, and I was trying to think, well, maybe this is retrocausality, because in quantum mechanics, there's a concept about retrocausality and all this weird stuff
Hmm.
about time.
Hmm.
And all of a sudden, it came to me what was happening.
Huh. Uh-huh.
Because what I was thinking is in quantum mechanics, there is a um, term called least action,
Hmm.
where the particle is in superposition, and then when it goes from point A to point B, it chooses the path of least action.
Right.
And I was
Like,
thinking, as I was speculating about this, I was thinking, okay, maybe the path of least action includes the past, or includes the past. And so I was contemplating this,
hmm.
and I was thinking about quantum, theory, and suddenly I realized what was happening. And I'm going to explain that today.
Hmm.
Now you and I have talked about another experiment that was done, I believe, back in the 80s, which is Benjamin Libet or Libet. I don't know how to pronounce his name. and he
You
described what
did?
was called readiness potential. And they had an experiment where they had people move their wrists. I believe that's what it was. And they had them connected to EEGs, and what they discovered was the brain would activate the motor cortex before the person was aware they decided to move their wrist.
I mean, that makes sense. Sometimes people go into flow state and they're not even applying like active thinking to their movement. They're just like moving with grace and it's like it's being handed to them. Am I on the right page with you?
I think you are. That's a different
Yeah.
way. But that's exactly. I think what's happening, and we discussed this before. The self that thought it was deciding was coming in a half a second after the brain produced what Libet called the readiness potential to move the rest. And so in both of these,
Hmm.
and the Radin research has been duplicated with respiration and heart rate and a bunch of other things. And so these are real things where people react, their
Right.
brains react before the action takes place. Very weird.
Mm-hmm.
But then it came to me how this works, and that's what that I'm going to explain my version of how this works today.
Okay.
But that was the inspiration.
And this is the
So,
retrocausality part?
well, there is no retrocausality. It appears that there is,
Okay.
but, but
Mm-hmm.
that's but that's not what's actually happening, in my
All right.
opinion.
All
Now,
right. Teach us, Professor Mark. I want to know.
well, now, Christina, I'm just a country therapist, and well, I
All
don't
right,
know.
fair. But I like the way that you think through these things. So I'm interested in hearing your perspective and take on them.
All right, so what I would encourage all the listeners to do is to go back and read some things about quantum mechanics. Three things in particular. Number one, what are quantum fields, which are basically fields of I would say, probabilities, not possibilities.
Right.
Um, the collapse of the wave function, which basically means a particle is in all positions at once until a measurement is taken, and then the wave function collapses, and because of the measurement, we can define certain principles and characteristics of a particle.
Right. It chooses a set of characteristics because it's being measured in some
When you
way.
measure it, it suddenly becomes a particle you can see, you can detect.
Exactly. Right. Okay.
And entanglement is a state of correlation where a state of one influences another. And in quantum mechanics,
Right.
that relates to photons or subatomic particles. So
Hmm.
if the two particles are entangled, if you change part of the state of one, it instantly influences the other one.
Right.
Okay,
And we were talking about that the electromagnetic fields are part of the quantum field, right? It's like it's
I
one
looked
aspect of the quantum field.
I looked that up, and what I got was that the electromagnetic field emerges from the quantum field.
Right. And so
It's
that
a
entanglement, I think we see in an exaggerated way in that particular field, or at least I do.
that's absolutely something to go research, because in in what we're going to talk about today, everything comes from the quantum field.
Right.
Okay, so now I was beginning to think I was losing my mind because quantum physicists believe that the quantum field emerges from the brain or the physical reality we're in. And it's very evident to me, and I believe anybody who's had an awakening experience, that awareness is the quantum field and everything is contained in that. It's not the other way around. Well,
Okay.
I was researching, okay, maybe somebody agrees with me, and it turns out my thoughts are pretty close to those of Federico Fagan. Fagan is a very famous physicist and has done extensive writing on this.
Hmm.
And he basically says the universe itself might be described as a single timeless wave function that is aware of itself. And so what I'm talking about today
Um,
is based on the assumption that the quantum field is the universe and that everything is contained within that rather than quantum fields emerge from, or in other words, consciousness emerge from the rather the brain is inside of consciousness. It's
brain is inside of consciousness.
right.
I think I'm gonna need to hear more before I can get
Well,
enough context to make sense of that.
okay, well, when we get a little further along, I think this will become apparent.
Okay.
In other words, the consciousness or awareness is the container of everything else. Everything is
Consciousness
contained
is
in
the
this,
container. Sure. Yeah, sure.
but physicists would say that consciousness is an expression of the physical world. It emerges from the brain and the rest of the physical world.
Okay.
It's a phenomenon tied, to that rather than the other way around.
Sure. Yeah,
I
I'm
know
just
it's,
trying to make sense of like how people can have out of body experiences and things like that. Like to me it says that you don't need the body for consciousness. It's just that you can have consciousness through a body.
I think anybody who has some kind of mystical experiences knows that intuitively, but if you're a brainiac and
You
you've
haven't
spent
had that.
your life in your head trying to figure it out with mathematics, that probably makes no sense.
For sure. Yeah, and I would have had a hard time understanding it before things just started happening to me. So,
Right,
no judgment.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. Okay, so now let's look at the concept of entanglement. We talked about this before. Um, what if entanglement can be seen as a clock? And imagine, I'm gonna use you and I as a metaphor for this. Imagine a
Okay.
completely timeless quantum state of the universe, a static
Mhm.
wave function with no evolution. In other words, there's no thing going on. There's nothing.
Mhm.
Now, suppose that this state is highly entangled, meaning its subsystems share strong quantum correlations. Now, I'm going to give an example of this in a minute.
Okay.
If you pick one subsystem as a reference, like a clock, you can describe how another subsystem state changes relative to that. Okay, so
Okay.
let's say that you and I are entangled. Now I'm sitting in my house and you're sitting in your house and you decide to go to the store. Okay, since we're entangled, I have a reference. My reference is me sitting in my house. But because you're entangled, as you get in your car and start driving to the store, I have an immediate understanding of your movement through time to go to the store.
Mhm.
And so, what if entanglement kind of creates a clock that allows us to understand one thing in relationship to another across time?
Mhm.
And
Right.
I'm going to get more specific here in a minute. So, the clock state, in other words, its potential or energy levels, becomes entangled with the system you're studying,
Right.
which would be you. I'm the clock state. You're the system I'm studying. And as I track changes in my clock, the system appears to evolve. Well, what's the evolution? The
Okay.
evolution is
Like the
you move from
driving
your
or
house. Right,
yeah.
exactly. Right.
Yeah. You see what's
So,
happening with me a little more clearly because we're entangled. Is that what you're saying?
right.
Okay.
And there's a relationship. So I can correlate your movements relative to mine because, I am it's an entangled system. So now there's a relationship between the two.
Right.
Now I'm
Right.
using entanglement kind of as a metaphor here. I mean, who knows how this actually works?
Mm-hmm. Hmm.
So time, and I checked, there are some quantum physicists that believe this. Time emerging from entanglement suggests that what we perceive as the flow of events is a shadow cast by quantum correlations.
Okay, time emerging from entanglement suggests that what we perceive as the flow of events is a shadow cast by quantum correlations. Okay. I don't think I
So it
totally get it yet.
so it appears that you're driving to the store,
Yeah.
but that's actually not what's happening. There is no flow of you going to the store, and it's really a quantum correlation, but it's not you driving to the store. You're not separate from me
Mm-hmm.
driving to the store.
Mm-hmm.
It's as if the universe is a vast static tapestry of entangled threads. I'm an entangled thread, you're an entangled thread,
Yeah.
and time is the pattern we weave by following one thread relative to another.
Right. Right.
Well, how do these threads emerge? They emerge through entanglement. And if you don't know what
Okay.
entanglement is, I would encourage you to look it up. So,
Yeah,
in, o-
quantum entanglement.
in other words, what I'm doing is I'm painting a picture that, from our point of view, we're living in this story where everything makes sense sequentially and it's all following this timeline. And but in reality, that's not exactly what's happening. But
Right.
it's what appears to be happening, but not exactly.
Mm-hmm. And that's because of our own brains adding to the story of the tapestry rather than helping us to see what's really just only there, right?
Well, we're not seeing the present moment. We're seeing time emerge from entanglement that gives it the appearance of a sequence.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So just like in the experiments, they reacted before they were shown the picture. Okay, those look like two separate things happening across time. And in this case, it appears to be happening in reverse, but that's not actually what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I know this is a little confusing, and trust me, I've spent several weeks trying to sort this out myself. So,
Yeah, it's okay. I feel like I'm more just like getting ready to get ready to understand it. Like that's
all
all.
right. So, in other words, a pie.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
Time is a
I'm
pie.
ex- I'm experiencing a pie,
Mm-hmm.
but what's happening is entanglement is cutting it into time pieces.
Mm-hmm.
So we got a piece of pie at
Because
12
that's how we're
o'clock.
measuring. Okay. Mm-hmm.
We got a piece of the pie at 2 o'clock, but it's all a pie.
Mm-hmm.
It appears as separate pieces, but that's not actually true.
Right.
The emergence from the
Right.
entanglement of one piece to another appears that it's a sequence of pieces, but it's really
Mm-hmm.
all just a pie.
So it's like we're just seeing it as cut pieces.
But
The
that's
way
right.
it actually exists is that picture of the whole pie.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct.
Okay.
So is this,
The
did I
pieces
dive
are a
off the,
hallucination.
exactly, that's a good way of putting it. Do you
Okay.
feel like I've
Okay.
I've taken a dive off the deep end here?
No, it's just a mind bending concept. So I'm trying to let you bend my mind a little bit.
It well, I had this initial insight and I had to go back to it many times in order to remember what the insight was. That's how foreign it was to me.
Yeah.
So you remember the quantum garage.
Yep.
So here
Nothing's
we
in there
have
unless you can see it.
so here we are. The man is in the quantum garage
Hmm.
and the flashlight, the quantum garage, the darkness, everything in the darkness represents the possibilities that are in superposition.
Right.
And the flashlight represents his awareness.
Ability
So
to
when
measure
he,
somehow.
that's right. So it's in physics, it's a measurement being taken. So he shines, he shines the flashlight and he sees the pie. But as we established in an earlier episode, his awareness of the pie is the pie that he's aware of. So if we
Mm-hmm.
go back to this, if he turns off the light, the pie is gone.
Right.
Or if he moves the light of his awareness to a different part of the quantum garage, another object emerges.
Yeah.
So the garage, the quantum garage, is full of probabilities that there's a lawnmower, there's a bicycle, you know, there's a pie, there's a pair of
Right.
muddy boots,
An extra fridge.
and yeah,
Maybe a
right.
car.
But we don't know that. It's like Schrodinger's cat. We don't know that any of that exists until he shines the light on it.
Yeah.
So what this means is that my awareness of the pie or experience itself is the pie that I'm aware of. So awareness of an experience and the experience itself are so intimately linked that they form a kind of entanglement.
Yeah.
This entanglement in turn gives rise to this sensation of cause and effect unfolding over time.
Mm-hmm.
So my experience of you driving, my awareness of you driving to the store is you driving to the store that I'm aware of. If I
Mm-hmm.
wasn't aware of you driving to the store, I would never know that that's what you did.
Mm-hmm.
But my awareness of you creates a you that's driving to the store that I'm aware of.
Mm-hmm.
Just, just like in the
Okay.
quantum garage.
It like, yeah, it helps you read the situation, and it also is the situation in which you can read. Okay.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah, no, this gets spookier and spookier.
Yeah, I feel
So,
like if we just keep saying it in different ways, that the concept will get more easily
right.
grabbed.
So this is a poetic
Yeah.
way to frame consciousness. I use
Mm-hmm.
consciousness and awareness synonymously as a participant in the emergence of time rather than just a passive observer.
Right. Right.
Okay. Now I know this is also counterintuitive. It's hard to wrap your mind around it because I have trouble with this.
Right. But you've seen a good reason to wrap your mind around it.
Well, where we're going with this is the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
See, all of this stuff is keeping us from the present moment.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. So our relationship with time is keeping us from the present moment, maybe?
Yeah, right.
So then if we have challenges with the present moment, we could challenge our relationship with time and our understanding of time itself, maybe.
So awareness, just like in quantum mechanics, collapses the waveform into a pie, and then entanglement slices it into time every 100 milliseconds. Okay, why is it every 100 milliseconds? Because as we've talked about in previous episodes, the brain refreshes about every 100 milliseconds. So we're not seeing a
Right.
continuous flow of events. The brain is chopping it up every 100
Right.
milliseconds and refreshes that. And so we're not seeing a single scene. We're seeing, millions of them chopped up. Now, I'm saying 100
Ah,
milliseconds. I'm saying 100 milliseconds because research shows the brain refreshes our experience of reality every 100 milliseconds. Whether my assumption is true or not, I have no idea. but it makes sense to me that it's something like that.
Hmm. Well, and like the brain refreshing makes sense for the slices itself. Like it's just what we can use to measure time is like our sense of it, our brain,
Right.
and that time's not changing. It's just our ability to measure it collapses and then re-engages over and
But
over and over and over. So it's
that's
like
my
our
theory.
brain really makes the slices.
Well, if you think about the way the brain works, you can trick the brain into recognizing patterns that aren't there. Why is that?
Totally.
Because the brain's job is to fill in the blanks so your experience of reality makes sense.
Right. Right. Which is why, like, people can get caught up in all kinds of crazy ideas or cults or things like that because the brain's just always trying to reconcile everything for you.
Well, if I see an object move from point A to point B, I'm seeing a slice here and a slice here, but the brain fills in the middle to give me a sense of continuous motion.
Yeah. Right.
All
Yeah.
right. So,
Okay.
no, now the question, here's the question. The question is, which one of these slices of the time pie is the present moment?
Is it arbitrary? It's
Well,
difficult to
maybe it's this,
say.
maybe the present moment is that slice, right?
It's as good as any.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So
Yeah.
you can see how ridiculous this is. You know, there's
Yeah.
there's no present moment in this pie that we've created called time.
Yeah.
So we can't go in and take a slice out of it and say, "Oh, this is the present moment."
Uh-huh.
Not possible.
Right.
So the present moment is an experience without a reference. So it's the entire
Mm.
pie. Just like
Okay.
consciousness is the entire pie.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Awareness is the entire pie. It's
Mm-hmm.
timeless, it's immersive, it's boundless, it's integrated, it's oneness, it's flow.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now it's time if you if you like what we're doing here and you enjoy exploring this stuff, the mind and what goes on with reality, like and subscribe.
Mm-hmm.
And Christina's dog Sunny gets a treat.
Yeah. And she'll really appreciate that from you. So thank you on her behalf.
Also, we have an online community we'd like you to check out. There'll be a You can scan the QR code and you can ask us about the online community that we're recruiting founders and we got a bunch of them. We're going to talk about closing this out soon where the founders get a 50% discount. The online community is called Thought Masters,
Hmm.
and we invite you to check it out, get more
Hmm.
information about it.
Live a more conscious life.
Yeah, we do more than talk about quantum mechanics. Actually, this is kind of a rabbit hole we're going down with the channel right now.
This is new.
All right. So the question then becomes, using the metaphor of the pie, what if the present moment isn't a moment after all?
Right. Right. Like if it's our brain that's starting and stopping it, then it's just a perception.
So possibly the present moment is the wavefront collapse without time.
Hmm.
So in other words, in the present moment, there's no sense of time
Right.
without a reference to anything else. An experience without an anchor. And we'll find out in a second what the anchor is. Just
Okay.
awareness of experience. And that's my postulate. My theory is that's all that exists is the awareness of experience.
Hmm.
Or another way of saying this is consciousness having an experience.
Right. Which is why it's so important for us to not believe the story our default mode network makes for us, right?
You predicted where I'm going.
It
So what makes the presence timeless?
helps put that in perspective, though. Okay, so what makes presence timeless?
So the sense of
Hmm.
self that is having an experience external to itself defines time. And as you just said a minute ago, the sense of self that's doing this to us is the default mode network in the brain. It produces the
Hmm.
internal dialogue and a sense of self that goes with it.
Right, right.
My theory is this, strictly my theory. You remove self, you remove time, and you enter the present moment. And that is going to be the subject of our next video.
So removing the awareness of yourself,
But that's
right?
right. You,
Okay.
um, maybe another way of saying that would be removing the awareness of you being a self.
Yeah, just being there and connecting with the moment rather
And you
than
and you do
being
this all
aware
day
you're an
long.
agent in the moment.
That's exactly right. We do this all day
Hmm.
long. So when we're focused and concentrating on something, the sense of self disappears.
Yeah,
And so does time.
right.
So you've been working on a project and you're so focused and involved, you have no sense of time.
Oh, totally.
That is the present moment.
I feel like that's where I exist naturally, but I have to like use a clock as a sort of trade language to get along in this world.
I understand. I understand. I
Yeah.
understand.
So it's like the presence is like when I'm happiest, I think, like the most thrilled because
Hmm.
I love being in the moment.
Absolutely. I think all that there is in the moment is the joy of being.
Yeah, right.
Okay, so going back to the research where this pre-reaction happens before the stimulus, without
Oh, like
a
the
cell.
pictures that were in rapid succession, like that?
Yes, right.
Okay. Okay.
So they showed pictures in rapid succession, and they registered the person having an emotional reaction before the disturbing picture was shown.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
So without a reference to a self that's having an experience, there is no time, just the present, just entangled unity from awareness. The universe,
Okay.
so there's nothing emerges. There's just this unity, awareness
Yeah.
being aware of itself. The universe is a single now, and every flicker of awareness bursts it anew. And I'm
Mm.
saying that happens every 100 milliseconds. That could be wrong. There's somebody I follow on the internet. His name is Cliff High. He says it happens 22 trillion times a second. Okay, that's fine, but the principle's the same.
Hmm.
This reality we're experiencing is resetting and rebuilding itself over and over and
Over
over
and over and over.
based on quantum principles.
Yeah.
So awareness of experience are two notes in a single chord heard as one when the waveform collapses.
Yeah.
And this was the insight I had. The insight I had was that the reaction or the pre-reaction and the picture are two notes in a single chord. They're
Yeah.
inextricably locked together,
It's a nice way
heard
to put
as
that.
one when awareness or the measurement collapses the waveform.
Right. Mm.
So
Yeah.
Does this
Interesting.
make sense? So what I saw when I looked at this, and I was thinking, okay, how does quantum physics explain this pre-reaction? I suddenly realized there is no pre-reaction. It's all one thing.
Mm-hmm.
The reaction, the pre-reaction, and the picture, the scary picture, exist in the simultaneous moment of now because one predicts the other and the other confirms the prediction. Can't believe I just said that. Makes total sense.
Hmm. That's awesome.
So in other words,
Okay.
you right now, you are a creation of my awareness of you.
Sure.
And you confirm the fact that I'm aware of you. The two things are one. It's one process.
Right. Because I well, why? Why would you say?
Because awareness of experience is the experience you're aware of.
Okay.
My
I
awareness of
guess I'm having a
Christina,
hard time breaking this down for many little agents all working together, but I'll get
I
there.
understand, and I can't explain that either. I can't. All I know is from one point of view is mine. My awareness of
Yeah.
you is the you that I'm aware of.
Right.
My awareness of the cup is the cup. So the entire world is made up of my awareness of it.
Right.
Just like the quantum garage, without awareness, it's just dark.
Right. Because your awareness is what is coming from you either being able to measure something or you wanting to measure something. Is
Well,
that fair?
in a quantum sense, in a quantum mechanics sense, my awareness is the measurement.
Right.
And so when I become aware of you, the waveform collapses into this person I know as Christina. And from your point of view, the same thing's happening with me.
Right.
So we're entangled in that sense.
Mm-hmm. Because we're
But
sharing that experience, or some things in common with that experience.
yeah, and I believe that the society, neighborhoods, personal relationships are a form of that entanglement.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's quantum entanglement. All right.
Hmm.
I know, look, I'm sure there are two kind of people watching this, the kind of people that have a background in physics and think I'm crazy, and then the people who, you know, feel like the earth is under their feet and nothing can change that. And so I just hope you'll keep an open mind to these ideas.
Mm.
All right. So now here it gets even weirder. So the past and the future are psychological.
Hmm.
The
Right.
stories
This I have
we
an
tell,
easier
huh?
time. Sorry.
Go ahead.
This I have an easier time with. That's all.
Okay. Okay. So the stories we tell ourselves about yesterday or tomorrow are mental constructs.
Hmm. Right.
Now, the now moment is not a point in a timeline. It's the entirety of existence. The
Right.
brain,
Because that's all we ever have anything to do with is right now.
that's exactly right. And so the
Yeah.
brain simulates the past, but it is a present
Right.
experience, not a window into what was. So did I have breakfast yesterday? There's no possibility for me to prove that. But I'm having a present experience of remembering that I had breakfast yesterday.
Hmm.
But I can't prove that actually happened.
Because you can't reverse time and be doing the exact thing that you were doing back then. Is that what you mean?
Well, the only no, the only thing I have as a reference point is my present experience. That's all there is.
So the only thing that you can prove is what's happening right now?
That's correct.
Okay.
And the only thing that's happening right now is my present experience. So my present experience of a past event is still happening now.
I don't know if this is going to help anything, but I'm trying to like keep following it along in this kind of abstract line of thinking. So, I don't know, is it fair to say the only thing you can prove is your consciousness?
Exactly. That's exactly right.
Okay.
And what is
Because if you can only
consciousness?
prove your awareness and your awareness is your consciousness.
So the only thing you can prove is that consciousness is having an experience. That's it. Awareness, we are, there's an awareness of an experience, and that's really all there is.
It's just like we're like all little measurement machines walking around.
So what I'm saying is awareness of experience is the sole arbiter of reality. So the reaction and the picture that we talked about in the research are not slices of the pie. There's a typo here. They fuse into the now through awareness and become entangled experience.
I need to know what an arbiter means. What
Somebody
is
who
an arbiter?
determines, somebody who determines, or a judge.
Okay, so awareness of the experience is the sole judge of reality.
Yeah. So
Yeah,
the reaction and the picture are not
right.
slices of a pie. They fuse into the now through awareness and become an entangled experience. All right.
Hold on, go back. I'm trying to put that together for a sec. Reaction and the picture are not slices of the pie. They fuse
And
into the now through
in other words,
awareness.
they're not two separate
So
events.
the reaction and the picture are part of time, and all three of them are entangled. Yes?
So so they're in well when we experience ourselves as a self, we slice it up into time pieces. But
Right.
the in reality, the reaction and the picture are not slices of a pie or time slices. They're not in a sequence. The
Hmm.
sequence only emerges because we think we're a self having an experience.
Okay.
The time emerges from the quantum field to try to make sense of this sequence. But actually, the two things are fused into the present moment through awareness and become an entangled experience.
Okay.
So, so this all
I think
happens
I'm beginning
outside
to
of
work that
time.
out. Yeah.
All right, so now this even gets even spookier. Reality as an appearance. So the external world doesn't exist out there with its own timeline and substance. It's an experience that only arises when observed.
Hmm.
This aligns with certain quantum theories and the teachings of the awakened masters like Advaita Vedanta, Buddhism, Ramana Maharshi, Nisargadatta Maharaj,
Hmm.
and there are many, many
Say
others.
that. Say that 5 times fast. But that's
Nisargadatta,
pretty.
he's an interesting guy. He was a cigarette salesman in Bombay who became enlightened, and people from all over the world came to meet in his attic and listen to him talk.
Huh. I feel like I remember hearing about him before.
I think I had a copy of his book called I Am That on one of our,
Okay. And maybe you went into that a little bit.
I think I told his story, yeah.
He wasn't I don't know where Bombay is, but that wasn't close to the Silk
India.
Roads, right?
I don't
Like
know.
did he sell cigarettes on the Silk Roads and that's how he met people?
No, actually he was like a wholesaler or like a dealer. I
Okay.
believe he sold
They'd go to the
cigarettes
shops and
exactly. But
and
when he was a
merchants.
when he was about 40, he decided he needed to be enlightened. So he went and found a guru, and he did what the guru said, and he became enlightened.
Mm-hmm.
And people from all over the world came to hear him teach.
Mm.
And strangely enough, he died of lung cancer from smoking.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of ironic.
Hmm.
All right.
Well,
Consciousness is self-aware. And this
right.
is what
I
and
think,
this is what
therefore I am. Mm-hmm.
this is what Federico Fagan says, what he concludes. So awareness um, of its own probabilities, it's basically consciousness is aware of its own probabilities manifesting as a specific experience in the present. So right now, consciousness is
Yeah.
manifesting itself as me talking to you, doing this program on the computer. This is a manifestation of consciousness
Right.
as a specific experience in the present moment.
Hmm. Right.
Okay, now here's the setup to our third in this series, free will and creation. So, in essence, the wave function doesn't collapse because of a measurement. Consciousness, aware of itself, chooses to experience itself as a definite state called you in the world.
Mm. So each moment my body is choosing to exist as a definite state.
Well, consciousness is choosing to express itself as your body having an experience.
Consciousness is my awareness expressing itself through my body. Is that what you said?
It's expressing yourself as a human body having an
As a human
experience.
body. Okay.
But none of it's actually real. All
It's all just an
it's just
interpretation.
it arises in consciousness as an appearance of something happening because consciousness wants to experience itself in that way.
Yeah. Maybe simulating itself in that way.
Um, it wants to know itself,
Mm-hmm.
and so it's using free will in the process of creating that knowing. And part of that free will is Christina. Part of
Yeah.
it's Mark.
Okay.
Okay.
Whole cosmic web.
I hope this didn't sound too disconnected. I hope it had some coherence to it today.
I think it's more that I'm trying to understand it on the next deep level, and that it just takes a little bit of time for these new concepts to even start to be understood by me.
Well, think about your experience when somebody came along and said you're not your thoughts.
Yeah, it took me a minute.
Yeah, it's like what?
Hmm.
So yeah, all of these, we live in a certain frame of reference, and all these ideas are outside of this frame of reference. And it takes a while to get used to even having the conversation in this way.
Yeah, for sure. And I've been lucky because more and more people that I've been running into have been able to engage with this type of conversation with me, and that's been so wonderful. But
Good.
yeah, it just takes me some time. These are big new thoughts for me.
Like I told you before we started recording, this took me 3 weeks to put this in any kind of a coherent fashion where I could really communicate it logically.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I do see a thread kind of running through all of it. So it's like, okay, I can tell on some in some way that there is a logical progression here for understanding, but I just haven't filled in all the blanks yet. So it's it'll take time.
So, so um, Episode number 3 will be about how consciousness expresses free will and creates reality. And this will give
Hmm.
us, will take us into this whole idea of manifesting that's so popular.
Right.
And I'll
Interesting. Okay.
see, I'll show you a different way of looking at this,
Interesting.
and how to get into the flow. We'll talk about that next episode, how to get into the flow. And then we're going to use the
Interesting.
flow to try to create a reality that's better than the one we have.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll have some personal sharing stories to share too, because I feel like experientially, I'm maybe getting exposed to different things within this. So,
Great. Good. Look forward to hearing that.
yeah, cool.
If
Well, thanks
anybody's
for
interested, I
yes.
have, this is not coming up. I've written 3 books. Um, you're more than welcome to check those out, and please contact us using QR code or the email address below. We'll be happy to continue the conversation. And do consider joining us in our online community, Thought Masters. And we're going to have a lot of fun with that.
Mhm. Awesome. Well, thank you, Mark, and thanks everybody for listening.
Thank you, Christina. We'll see you next time.
All right, bye.
Bye bye. So, what if the self, I mean, this is kind of along the lines we were talking before we started recording. What if the self that you think you are is the door that locks you out of the present moment?
Totally. Yes. Uh-huh. Like, is your brain a governor or not? And how much is it? Yes.
So, tonight or today, we're going to talk about the hidden entrance to the present moment. And this is number 2 in a series we're doing about the present moment.
Mm-hmm.
So,
It's so hot right now.
what? Well, I hope so. I mean, maybe it's more popular than carburetors. We hope it is. So, welcome to Mastering Thought, where we try to have you come and soar with us. Now, the last episode we did in this series was the first one, and that was called "The Secret of the Present Moment."
Mm-hmm.
And as you'll recall, Christina, that really kind of got us into some deep stuff about quantum physics.
Yeah.
We're not going to
Well,
go into that deep hole today.
no, but I will say, because we've been talking about this concept for at least 3 weeks before we did our first
Mm-hmm.
episode on it. And it's just seemed like it's added so much fervor to my everyday thought life. Like, I
Uh-huh.
just feel like I'm go, go, go. I just want to understand more and more. And it's been so cool as I've been grasping these concepts that,
Wow.
like, totally unrelated parts of my life have been improving. Are they unrelated? I don't think so anymore. And so it's been fun to see how it all entangles.
Great. Well, if any of
Yeah.
this is, piquing your interest, Christina and I have started an online community called Thought Masters. And if you
Hmm.
scan the QR code, you can tick a box, and it'll send us a message, and we'll get together and talk to you about it. And these people on the community are learning these principles and having awakening experiences, and that's really what it's all about. So we
Absolutely.
invite you to come and join us on Thought Masters
Hmm.
and
Yeah,
experience the awakening.
just the goal of for new people that don't really know us. Like, Mark and I have dedicated our channel to helping you live a more conscious life, beating non-conscious patterns, and being more in control of your everyday. And this ties in because we wanting to hone in even more to how can you enjoy your right now.
So Christina is a massage therapist and does cranial sacral therapy. And
Yes.
so she's very much a body oriented person.
Yep.
And I've been a marriage family therapist for 25 years and have worked with probably close to 5,000 people. And so these are principles that come out of our experience with people. And today I think we're going to venture into another area of this that is, you know, another fresh look at things that, you've heard from other people. This is not the secret of the present moment, but this is the hidden entrance. And as usual, I've got my own, kind of fresh look at
Little
this,
spin.
my little spin. So
I
in
like your
part
spins.
one, if it's okay, I'm going to summarize some things and then try to bridge into
Mm-hmm.
this new area.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things we try to establish in part one is that time is experienced in reference to a self. So
Yeah.
you in other words, in order for me to experience like Christina's progression in her life, I have to be the reference for my observing Christina's movement. And that reference of having a self gives me the experience of time lapse or a time frame. And the other thing we tried to address last time was the present moment is an experience without a reference.
Right.
So that when we have a reference, we're using the self as an anchor for that reference. But when we're in the present moment, there is no self that we're referencing.
Right. Which is like why when you go into flow state, you totally lose track of time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Very good. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
And so what we established last time was the present moment is not a moment at all.
Right.
And
Right.
so we use this
Endlessly
metaphor.
now.
What's that?
Everything is always endlessly now.
That's right. So
Yeah.
we use this metaphor of a pie cut into pieces to represent the passage of time or moments. It kind of looks like a clock.
Mm-hmm.
But then, kind of tongue in cheek, we said, okay, well, let's find the present moment here. And the idea is you can't logically find a piece that's actually which one are we going to remove and say that's the present moment?
Right.
Well, it
Right.
doesn't exist in that metaphor. It doesn't describe the present moment. It
Right.
ex, it describes the passage of time, but not the present moment.
Exactly. It's almost like you're trying to use the pie for the wrong thing. If like
Yes.
I don't know. This is what was so fun about people that we were commenting with this last week. So thanks everybody for your comments. I don't know if I said it well in the comments, but how like a word can have multiple definitions, right? Like sting, right? Yeah, it can mean a bee sting in you, but it can also mean a sting operation from the government, right? Or like the police, right? So, like, in that way, if there's many different ways to understand time, it's like, yeah, using the pie to like understand that it is a thing is great. But the pie is not always meant to be served, right? Like the pie also just needs to be understood as a pie sometimes, and like what else it can be used for, or something like that. Other ways it can be considered, I guess. Did I say that in a comprehensible way, Mark?
I liked it.
Okay.
So, what if the present moment isn't a moment at all? Possibly the present moment, and this refers back to quantum mechanics, is the wavefront collapse without time, without reference to anything else, just experience without an anchor, just awareness of experience. And of course, in my philosophy, that's all there is. There's nothing but the awareness of experience.
Right. Right.
All right. So the question then became what makes presence timeless? So the sense of a self, and this is where we're going today. This, this is we're going to get ourselves free from this. So the sense of a self that is having an experience external to itself defines time. Okay? When you remove the self, you remove time.
Mm-hmm.
and you enter the present moment.
So just saying removing self, meaning your awareness is no longer on you. Your awareness is outside of yourself, just being an experiencer, right?
It always was.
Right. So it's more
So
like it's the experiencer that stops you.
that's right. And
Yeah.
and we're going to define this here.
Okay.
Exactly. So if you want to enter the present moment, you have to remove the idea or the concept or the feeling of a self in order to fully enter presence.
Right. Okay.
And this takes us to the default mode network. Now, we've talked a lot about this on our channel. Oh, and by the way, I'm going to put an end card for part one of this series.
Mm.
So, the default mode network, let's just define it, is a set of brain regions that are active when a person is at rest and not focused on the external environment. It's like the brain's idle setting kicking in during daydreaming, self reflection, or when you're just letting your mind wander.
Hmm.
So the default mode network produces a story of me and the world with a distinct sense of self.
Right. Yep.
So this is where we're going here. We're going to explore this sense of self and ask if it's a real thing. Well, it's a real thing, but it's not the real.
If it's the real deal. uh,
So, well, how do we get rid of that pesky self?
oh, this is so freeing, you guys.
So,
Yes.
and I don't think there's anybody else talking about this. You know,
People
most
do, but not exactly like we do. I feel like maybe many of us are on the fringe of different things and we all need to keep figuring things out and share as we go. I think your way's the best. That's why I hitched my wagon to you.
well, thank you. Well, I think a lot of people, a lot of teachers and guides try to get people to use their selves to go into the present moment, and that's just simply not possible.
Yeah, well, and that's like the whole thing, right? Like when you disidentify from thought, you're able to see exactly when your ego's trying to get in a way that you cannot see before
That's
you
right.
separate yourself from your ego. And so it's like I don't know, like so many wonderful realizations I've had over the last decade was, hmm, this didn't start where I thought it did. I need to move a step backwards. you know? And that's what showed me my ego was disidentifying from thought.
So that's number one, is disidentifying from thought. And this is how we get rid of the pesky self. Number
Mhm.
one, disidentify from thought. And I'm going to show you how to do that.
Mhm. And it's not even hard.
And Christina's been through this process, and I'll never forget the Sunday
Yeah.
morning I got a text from her and said, "Oh, I think I had an awakening," and it was true.
Mhm.
She had.
Mhm.
Then step two then is isolating the feeling of me,
Mhm.
which is the self. And step three is noticing the coming and going of me, and we'll show you how
Mhm.
to do that. And once you get used to doing that, then you can just step into presence.
Yeah. It's all just awareness. It's really that simple. Just
That is.
understanding it and awareness and like your life gets better.
And so if you
That's
we
my
there's Sunny.
dog. I
Sunny
seriously
had
get
a lot of
happy
treats
every
last week.
time. I she sure did. And we are fostering another dog, so I let Jack in on it too. We
Okay.
can share who Jack is if anyone cares. Put
Well,
a
let's.
dog in the comments if you want me to share a picture of Jack.
How long is Jack going to be with Sunny?
Well, so we agreed to take him at least 2 weeks,
Oh,
but he if he gets along really well here, then he can stay. But actually, Jack needs to learn that there is a self. Like Jack, To get along in the practical, physical world, Jack needs to learn that there is a self. Right now, he thinks that he should be able to be on top of you and cuddle and drool and get
What
everything he wants.
what breed is Jack?
He looks like a German Shepherd. He's like a lighter coloring. I don't know. He was found in a field.
Oh,
So there's like no history on
oh,
him. But
okay,
he does have two dew claws in the back. I don't know if that means like purebred or not for that breed, but anyway, I digress. A week or
okay.
two to answer your question,
All
Mark.
right. Anyway, we invite you to like and subscribe,
Uh,
and for everybody who subscribes, Sonny gets a treat. So
yep. And Jack,
Sonny's
thank you.
Sonny's getting fat.
Yeah.
All
I
right,
seem
so here's
nervous.
the exercise to disidentify from thought, and this is what I've used in my psychotherapy practice for almost all of the 25 years I've been doing this. It's
Yeah.
going on 26 now. Anyway, and why do I do this? Because what I've discovered is unless you were hit in the head with a 2x4 or born with some kind of a defect or something, 99% of all emotional psychological problems come from the voice in your head that sounds like you talking to you.
Right. Right.
And so here's how to overcome this.
Right.
Leave your eyes open and wait now for the next thought. And those of you listening, you can do this while we're doing this. And these should be trivial everyday thoughts. And by the way, I just posted a video on our site this morning. You haven't seen it yet, Christina, where I go through this
Mm.
practice for our
Oh,
members
goody.
as well.
Cool, cool.
So the idea here then is to become aware or notice what happens to the voice in your head the moment you recognize you're thinking. In psychology, we call this metacognition. So,
Thinking
so
about
base,
thinking.
you're basically observing your own mental activity and then rinse and repeat. So you do that over and over again. Now that's very
Like a few
important.
times a day.
Yeah, just a few times a day.
Yeah,
It's
not like
the
in succession in one sitting.
right. Now there are a couple things about this. We're only doing it on trivial thoughts because we're training your brain to be able to become aware that you're thinking. We're not trying to
Mm,
solve the problem of bad or negative thoughts.
right.
And we're not looking for an outcome. The instant you notice the voice in your head go away, that's the end of the exercise.
Right. Yeah. Don't engage with the thought.
Right. Most people overthink this and they try to,
Right.
analyze it and try to figure out where it's going to go and, where did the thought come from? No, the instant you notice that you're thinking, the voice goes away. And the reason why the voice goes away, focusing on a thought turns on a network in the brain called the task positive network. And the task positive network, then when it goes on, this forces the default mode network to diminish and the voice stops.
Hmm.
So you're literally just switching networks in the brain. And we've got a lot of
Right.
videos on this on our channel.
Totally. Yeah. And once like I think for some people, if they want a simpler way to consider it, it's just like you're turning off one machine for turning on another. And the
Correct.
more times you practice it, the more that neural pathway gets built until suddenly it boom, like totally sets in and you have a shift.
Right. And so, like going back to your own experience, I mean, you did this thought watching exercise
Yeah.
and then nothing happened. And then all
Right.
of a
So I
sudden
did
one
all the
morning,
common mistakes for
yeah,
2 weeks and then we like batted them out. We figured out how to get rid of all the bad habits.
well, what happened was there was just a sudden awakening.
Yeah, right. Once I started doing the exercise, just turning off one area of the brain and only turning on the other. Yeah.
And so what it does is it rewires the front of the brain and suddenly you get a new perspective. It just comes out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it What's so cool about that new perspective is that it feels like it's always been there and it's a truer and deeper part of you.
Absolutely excellent.
Yeah,
And so
like
what
other parts of you will feel relief that the thing has changed.
that's correct.
Yeah.
So I would recommend to the listeners to get on the internet and look up the task positive network and the default mode network and understand how they're negatively correlated and how they kind of switch back and forth.
Yeah, for sure.
So we're not going to get into this in depth here today. But
Well,
this,
we have videos of that too, but I don't
yeah,
know what they're called.
we've got a bunch of them. If you go to the playlist on awakening,
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah.
they're all included in that. And
Yeah, good idea.
what else was I going to say? This, and actually, the people I work with who have relationship issues, depression, anxiety, stress, as you said just a minute ago, Christina, the instant this change happens, almost all of that just goes away instantaneously.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I will say that it was like something whacked 70% of my problems off of me.
Mm-hmm.
And the rest has just been me learning how to become more aware and more conscious to like
Right.
keep getting the rest revealed. And so that part's slower, but it's so hopeful and it's very doable and possible.
Yeah, it's
I
kind
don't
of
know
like a
why my brain's just so stubborn about believing some things.
well, no, I think it's like peeling back the onion. I mean, you peel back
Mhm.
this gigantic outer layer, and it feels like such a relief. But then there's little finer details that you
Yeah.
develop the ability to see, and
Right.
you just go after one layer at a time.
Well, right, and we were talking about how like just because you don't have like future fear about something doesn't mean that you don't have grief from something that happened
That's
before.
true.
And I really do believe that that 30% that was left was just about like different parts of my life and experience that just needed a different kind of acknowledgement. Like
Mm-hmm.
maybe more compassion or maybe to like challenge that rule that I followed that I, maybe don't actually ever have never agreed with, that that rule should be a rule, but I was just putting other
Mm-hmm.
people's beliefs on me. So it's been a very good, inspiring and awakening journey. And I wouldn't have had it without the awakening.
No. And what I do in my work is once people have the awakening, then we use their emotional reactions
Yeah,
as a roadmap to take them back to their childhood to find out where that unfinished business came from.
right, totally. Yeah.
But
And
without
I
that
think
initial, go ahead.
go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say, without that initial awakening, they don't really have the eyes to see those relationships.
Totally. Yeah. And well, I think that's why you and I are such a good team because then, like, the body, mind, and emotions are all part of one organic thing. And when we benefit one area, we also then see like the next thing that gets to be benefited or healed in your
Mm-hmm.
body. And so it's like so cool because I'll do body work and people will have similar ish revelations, like kind of like
Right.
a spiritual experience. And yet, like, you and I, we can see different access points about it and
Mm-hmm.
like paint this bigger picture. I know you've helped me understand so much more about how to be mentally well and like be awake and thrive instead of just trying to survive.
Yeah, and honestly, so many people struggle and suffer. And we
Yeah,
really want to get this message out to as many people as we can because this stops the suffering.
it does. Yeah, and
So,
stops body pain. And I mean, from my experience, and who knows
mhm.
what implications that like that lack of stress has on like serious disease.
Yeah, well, the body is the theater of the mind,
Yeah, you talk it out or you act it out, and your body plays by the same rules.
right? There's a great book written probably 20 years ago or so called The Body Bears the Burden. It was an
Oh,
excellent
okay.
book.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. And a real popular one now too is The Body Keeps Score.
Oh, okay.
They have workbooks too.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was number one. Now, the number two exercise is isolate the feeling of me. Now, this is really important. And so I've taken you through this before, Christina, but this is very simple. You just repeat your name silently to yourself,
Yeah.
and then every now and then you substitute a different name.
Hmm.
So if I'm repeating my name is Mark, my name is Mark, my name is Mark, and then I say my name is Christina, all of a sudden the feeling of me just disappears
Yeah.
because I know I'm not Christina.
Right.
And so what's happening then is you are isolating the feeling of me by
Hmm.
making it go away.
Hmm.
And the feeling of me is the problem here. This is what we're trying to master because the feeling of me is a saboteur.
It's a governor. It like constricts you from so much of what you're capable of.
Well, not only that, but well, you'll see here in a few minutes.
Yeah. Okay. But
So
yes.
so the number one thing is to do exercise number one until the awakening comes. If we can help you, scan the QR code, reach out to us. You know,
Leave
I've
comments
done
below. Yeah.
I've done Zoom consults with many people, taking them through the
Yeah.
process. I'm happy to do it. And or you can join us for a trial run on our community and learn it there. But
Yeah.
number two, but when you're free of thought, you're not free of the feeling of a self.
When you are free of thought, you are not right. Yeah, right. It just because you solved one doesn't mean you solved both.
Right. So the kind of two
Right.
and
Yeah.
two is you've got
Right.
this constant dialogue in your head that you've identified as yourself,
Right.
but then there's this
Right. No, it's
sensation.
it's told you it's you, by the way.
So yeah, so then there's this whole set of feelings that you've identified as a self
Yeah.
that is at a layer just beneath the identification with thought. And this exercise is meant to isolate that feeling. I
Yeah.
call it the feeling of me. And once you've isolated it, now you can take it to the next step, which I think is very powerful. Because now think about it. If you go back to the default mode network and the task positive network, this feeling of me is actually shifting back and forth all day long.
Right.
Because, when you watch task focused attention, you're watching it switch to wandering and daydreaming. You're watching the task positive network and the default mode network switch back and forth during daily
Right.
activities.
Yeah.
So awareness reveals the me feeling as quiet during action and loud during drift, showing it's not a constant thing.
Right.
So so if I
Right.
sit down to watch a TV show, that feeling of me is going to go away because I'm focused on the show.
Right. Getting lost in the moment.
But exactly. But
Hmm.
and then as soon as I start self-referencing, that feeling of me comes right back. And so this feeling of
Right.
me is switching on and off all day long.
Right.
And what I'm saying is begin to make it a habit of noticing when that feeling of me turns on and off because that gives you mastery over identifying that thing,
Ooh. Yeah.
right?
You're right. That is the next step to the awareness for that. Right, because like you and I have talked about this before, and maybe this is an answer to that, but that I would tell you like maybe it's like while my rewiring process for this is underway or something, but it's like I'll have glimpses and moments where like I totally realize like okay, my personality is a belief. It could be anything. This is just what my brain chose, and like that really helps me um have clarity on like disidentifying from myself,
Right.
but it's not always it's not done yet or something because it's like I still forget at
Mm-hmm.
times that I'm also like not myself.
Well,
Right.
what I find
So,
interesting is that when you have the awakening and you identify the self, and then you
yeah.
go into the state that exists behind the self when the self goes away. Well, I think I've got a slide that talks about that here in a second.
Okay.
It becomes so enticing, you don't want that self anymore.
Yeah.
You just don't want it in the way.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
So,
just like getting rid of the pain in the butt part of your brain rather
it,
than the part that wants harmony and flow and peace
right. So,
and
so
productivity.
step three is to become an expert on the coming and going of that feeling of me, of being a self.
Yeah.
And next week we're going to find out we're going to talk about free will, and we're going to find out that that self that you think you are is not even exercising the free will. That's coming from
Right.
somewhere else.
Yeah. Just
All
following
right.
orders here.
Okay, then you're ready to step into presence. Because what you'll do is you will see that the me in your head is just a mental construct. The personality, the self,
Right.
is a story in the mind that just spins,
Mm-hmm.
and this cuts through the illusion of it being some solid real thing. So the sense of self is not a solid real thing. That realization lets you step out of identification and into presence, where you're not dragged around by the idea of me anymore. It's like dropping a heavy bag, which you talked about before we started recording today,
Yeah.
that you didn't even know you were carrying.
Yeah.
Suddenly, you're just here, free to experience what actually is. So, this is a
Yeah.
radical point of view. So, what I'm saying is, in order to really fully enter presence, you have got to completely disidentify from the sense of self that is actually seeking presence.
Right.
This is why so many enlightened teachers tell you that you need to give up the spiritual search. Why is that? Because there's a self or an ego involved in the spiritual search, and when you give up the search, the ego surrenders, and that's when the awakening occurs.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what we're kind of setting up here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So did I explain that well in that paragraph, do you think?
I mean, I'm hanging with you. But I have to admit, like, I don't know. We might have our own lingo now, and I don't
Well, wait a minute. So
realize
you
that.
were sharing with me last time
Yeah.
that when you're doing body work with people, sometimes you completely lose yourself.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it.
No, I understand what it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I understand what you're talking about.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And that like even but you even saying that when I would get a mesh with people and then like have bigger experiences and then there's like a different way of being present where I
Right.
I didn't get too enmeshed. I was also willing to let go of their self and we were just like the mental space was we were just in the field together, the
Hmm.
matrix.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
All right. So then living in presence becomes possible because staying in the present moment opens the door to more flow, which is the word you just used, clarity
Yeah,
and ease
totally.
as ride the wave of awareness of experience, which is the sole arbiter of reality.
Mhm.
Not the me or the self or the judging ego. Just simple awareness of experience is the arbiter of reality, as opposed to the false self saying, look at me having an experience.
Okay, you said this last, right? Arbiter means creator, right?
Kind of judge.
Judge, that's what it was. Okay, judge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, arbitration. Okay. Look at me having an experience.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Now, this may seem to many people listening to be kind of like a fine line, but it's a huge gap between the two. And when you tune into this, you can
Yeah,
feel it going back.
it's profound. Yeah.
And you and I were talking before we were recording. You were asking me, kind of what I learned this week, and
Yeah.
I've been learning this more and more. I mean, this doing this channel with you has just helped me immensely because I have to make this stuff coalesce.
Yeah.
And what I've
Totally.
realized is my whole creative process is dependent on this thing right here.
Living in the present moment.
Right. If I
Yeah.
let my
Right. That's
ego
when your
struggle,
inspiration comes.
yeah, it just what happens when I let go of that sense of self that's trying to accomplish something is there's just a flow of creativity and understanding that I don't even know where it comes
Totally.
from.
I know. And you'll hear like artists talk about that, and you'll hear
Hmm.
like musicians talk about that. And I don't know, I just wonder if everyone has their own little version of that. And this is yours.
So try those
Picking up on
three
something.
exercises
Hmm.
because I think it will tune you into what presence really is. And but now let me give you a glimpse of episode 3 in our discussion of the present moment.
We're so lucky. Sneak preview. Okay, take it away.
So this is a point we made in our last video. The wave function doesn't collapse because of a measurement. Consciousness, aware of itself, chooses to experience itself as a definite state called you in the world. And so this brings in the concept of free will and creation, or in the New Age parlance, manifestation,
Hmm.
abundance.
Oh man. Okay, I might share a story next week about this because
Okay.
something happened this last week that just gave me goosebumps.
Well, you know, keep your mind on that because that'll be
Yeah.
really important because I'm still trying to sort this out. I got a glimpse of something, and when it came to me, it just completely radically changed my understanding of free will.
Ooh, story time next week. We all get to share.
So, if you want to dive deeper into some of these things, I've written 3 books. Um, the Dance of the Lion and Unicorn is very popular, and it's recently come out in an audiobook, which is doing well, if I don't say so myself.
Heck yeah, it is. Woot woot.
And if you need anything, there'll be emails and links below in the description. And scan the QR code and let us know if we can help in any way. So, we kept this
Well,
one down under 40 minutes, Christina.
look at us go. And I'm just feeling so good. I'm like in the present moment. I'm just like here grinning like an idiot, just being present. Like, see, it works, guys. But no, thank you for everything you brought out today, and I've really enjoyed our conversation. If anybody has things they want to take this discussion like in a certain direction or curious about anything, please leave comments. We really do love it, and you're helping us just as much as well. Hopefully, we're helping you. But
That's our aim. That's our purpose.
yeah. And it's been really fun for those of you listening that joined our community. I mean, I can tell you in there too, but it's been really cool getting to experience furthering the conversations that way too. So, anyway,
Wonderful. All right. Until we meet again.
all right. Have a great, crazy quantum week.
We'll talk soon. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye bye. I've come up with something very interesting for this episode. What if we don't create our reality, we actually craft how we accept it? Which,
Hmm.
how does that grab you?
Well, I mean, to me, it's like no one can make you do or feel anything. Like you are responsible for your own actions and like, you know, thoughts and beliefs.
Well,
But then it's like also makes sense. Yeah, it also makes sense with some of the conversations we've been having midweek too. So you tell me.
think about this. The title today is Creating Reality from the Present Moment. And
Right,
what's really tricky about this is that in the present moment, there is no self
right,
to create reality. So
right.
the idea here is we're creating reality in the present moment, but actually, what we're really doing is we're crafting ahead of time how we're going to accept reality when it's created.
There
And
you go. Okay.
that's, yeah. So there's no, in the present moment, there is no sense of self. And we covered that in the last video.
Right.
So here we are, mastering thought. We want you to soar with us.
And my name is Christina Black. I'm a massage therapist who practices craniosacral therapy. And this is my friend, Dr. Mark Waller, who has been a licensed marriage and family therapist for 20, did you say 20 or 25 years before?
Going 26 years now.
Wow, 26 years.
Yeah.
And what I love about Mark, what his genius is he can see like the non-conscious patterns that we might have, and he's really good at pointing them out to you. And it is a bitter pill to swallow for some, and if you do, you will find a better life because of it. So here we are.
So this is part three of a three-part series. Part one was The Secret of the Present Moment. And we would really encourage you to watch part one and two because they're really predicates for this episode
Yeah,
today.
for sure.
In especially part two. Part two is the hidden entrance to the present moment, where we really talk about this sense of self that kind of flickers in and out all the
Hmm.
time and
Right.
what that really means.
Yeah. And
So
how could it be keeping you from presence?
that's right. The idea is you
Hmm.
can't be present and in being experiencing, you can't experience a self that's present while you're being present. You can't do it. So
Right.
it presents
So okay,
some paradox.
let's say like a firefighter's running into a burning building. Like he's probably not thinking about his sense of self, right?
That's right.
He's just in the moment.
Right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, well, another example is years ago there was a book written called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior
Hmm.
and by Dan Millman. He tells the story of his teacher, Socrates, who basically runs a gas station up the road from the
Hmm.
university where he's a track athlete, tells
Hmm.
him he's thinking too much. And
Hmm.
what we find out in episode two is the self is a construct of thought. So anyway, he tells Millman he's thinking too much. He says, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, meet me at the bridge that goes over the river on the campus tomorrow at 2."
Yeah.
And and so the next day, Millman runs up to the the bridge, and Socrates is the name he's given his teacher is standing there. And Millman says, "I only have a few minutes. I have class." And with that, Socrates grabs him and throws him over the bridge into the water. And And Millman scrambles out of the water and back up to the bridge and says, "Why did you do that?" And Socrates says, "You weren't thinking on your way down, were you?" All right, but
Yeah.
today,
Just being in the moment. That's so funny.
so
I'll have to give
today
you an
we're
example.
I'm going to tell you another little story. This becomes very significant to this whole theme. So years ago, many years ago, there was a girl. She's about 14 or 15. This picture shows she's a little too young, but she would walk her dog, there's her dog in the background, in Central Park every day. And while walking her dog in Central Park in New York, she met a strange man who wore a beret. And they struck up conversations and they became kind of friends. And they would talk about the universe and God and the meaning of life and all these deep subjects. And I get kind of excited when I think about this because there's nothing more alluring than a 14 or 15-year-old girl who is becoming aware of her part in the world and how curious she can be and how involved in the meaning of things. And this just turned into a special relationship, and we're going to come back to that a little later on.
Mm. And that's a real story?
This is a real story, and these are real people, and I'll tell you who they are
Oh, that's
when we
so
get to
cool.
that point. Yeah.
Okay.
But unfortunately, one day she went to the park, and the old man wasn't there anymore. And that's part of the story as well.
Mm.
So, all right. So, one of the things I realized a long time ago, and it came out in doing part 1 and 2, is that consciousness is a quantum field. In other words, this quantum field is awareness itself, and it has two purposes. And this is
Mm-hmm.
according to Federico Fagin, who I really respect. He's basically the inventor of the CPU. They had a spiritual
Oh,
awakening and then put this all together in quantum theory. And the two principles he talks about is consciousness wants to know itself, and it has free will. Now, the free will part tripped me up, and we're going to talk about that. That's all part of this
right.
creation
Right.
thing. But we need to go back and interrupt me at any time. I'm just kind of regurgitating some of the stuff we've already talked about in the previous sections.
Right.
So we need to go back to this experiment that we talked about in part 1. And the gentleman who was the researcher was named either Radin or Radin. I'm not sure how to pronounce his name. And what they did was they took people and connected them to a GSR, which is galvanic skin response, and they would show them random pictures. You remember this?
Yep.
And embedded in the random pictures was a picture that was emotionally disturbing. And what they discovered, just incredibly, was that the skin conductance would show that the limbic system, specifically the amygdala, was responding with fight or flight before the subject actually saw the disturbing image.
Mm-hmm.
But
Right.
that phenomenon did not occur during with neutral images.
Mm-hmm.
And we speculated in the last video that this was a result of quantum entanglement outside of time in the timeless present rather than the person being preconscious.
Right.
And we go through a whole elaborate explanation of that and how that works. But it got me thinking because there's something else going on here that I found very interesting that has to do with creating reality. Because what I concluded the more I studied this is that the person's reaction to the picture created the picture.
Oh.
In
Oh,
other
that's
words,
interesting.
because of quantum entanglement, the two occurred simultaneously. And we tried to establish this idea that awareness of experience is the experience we're aware of.
Okay, and if consciousness is trying to know itself, it's just trying out different realities.
There you go. So,
Hmm.
so the question then is, what if awareness, in this case, created the experience? Well, if that's true, if the galvanic skin response, if the emotional reaction created the picture, because the person responded before they saw the picture, right?
Right. But then how would you compare it to like the the control where they showed one with only neutral images? Like,
Because
how does that tease out?
there was you're bringing up the next question. Then, what would motivate the creation of this reality? In other words, what drives the emotional response to the threat? Can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just,
Okay.
I'm deep thinking.
Okay. So your question basically is what would motivate the emotional reaction as opposed to the non-reaction to the neutral pictures?
Right.
Okay. Think about it. Well, what would? What would create an emotional reaction, period?
Association?
What would motivate it though? Why do you react to anything emotionally?
Because I feel compelled as though I must. I don't know
Yeah,
what.
but what okay, so
Oh, maybe the default mode network? Like,
now you're on track. So consciousness is a timeless force seeking to know itself, and that consciousness is in a, basically it's in superposition. In quantum
right,
mechanics, all probable and I like the word probabilities rather than possibilities.
right.
And so what it does is it connects to the limbic system. In other words, it entangles with the limbic system because survival is the imperative.
Okay.
So the reason the person creates the picture that they're reacting to is because they're trying to survive the emotional response. It's all about survival. So if we go back to
I'm
the
not sure.
experiment,
I'm not sure I understand the explanation well
okay, well,
enough because yeah, go ahead.
so let me go back and explain it. So the person is being shown random pictures,
Mm-hmm.
and all of a sudden they register an emotional response.
Right.
And then the emotionally disturbing picture shows up. And what we
Sure, but wouldn't, sorry, do you want to keep going or could,
so what we established in part two was that those two were one event. Now the question is, why would consciousness entangle with the emotional disturbing picture and produce an emotional response?
oh, okay.
Because the collapse of the waveform has to do with survival. So
Okay.
survival, what is motivating consciousness to create that reality?
Okay.
Where am I going off here?
Um, I guess I just don't know how to reconcile the difference between like I guess the different phases of the experiment and like
Right.
was that preset or was it random? Like was it always random and
Oh,
some people only got it and some people didn't?
no, it was always random, and the emotional reaction always occurred or statistically significantly recurred before the person saw the picture.
Okay. So it wasn't ever that the scientists knew if the emotionally disturbing picture would pop up at that time.
No, it was randomly
It was
generated
just
by a
only
computer.
random. Got it. Okay. So when they had the events that someone didn't have a disturbing picture, that was just as probable as getting one as
That's
far
right.
as the scientists were concerned.
That's right.
Okay. All right. That makes a lot more sense. So because there wasn't a control of here's when we're not showing disturbing pictures,
Right.
that wasn't that way. Okay. Now I can track with you a lot better. Thank you for
So it was
explaining that.
completely random.
Hmm.
But what we established in part two was the awareness of the picture created the picture
Right.
because they're all
Okay.
being measured at once. And in quantum mechanics, when you take the measurement, it collapses the waveform. And in this case, it created entanglement between the reaction and the picture.
Okay. Okay, that kind of makes sense too. And like how dreams can be so random. I feel like that dreaminess, that same dreamy part of our mind will like spill over into our wakefulness sometimes in body work and like show people what's going on in their body with like pictures and images in their mind.
Right.
So if the only thing that's different is that now there's a mechanical TV in front of them, but they're like tapped into something like that actually could make sense to me
So
that their
so
minds are pulling up specific pictures for whatever
okay,
reason.
but the real question is, in this case, what would motivate consciousness to create a scary picture and pair it with an emotional reaction from the limbic system?
Okay, and that's why you're saying it's got to be survival
That's the only
because
thing it could be.
yeah, because it's like keep sharp, don't forget about this, don't get caught off guard with this kind of thing, maybe.
Right. Right. And so my thesis here, in other words, what drives emotion to create a threat? Well, what would drive the emotion to create the scary picture is survival. So stress and danger collapses consciousness into a survival-based reality. And when you think about it, you know, all human experience before people are awakened is all based in survival.
Absolutely. Yeah. You're just
And
trying to stay above water.
so what's happening is,
Yeah.
because we're trapped in this survival mechanism, consciousness is recreating survival scenarios in our reality because that's the feedback it's getting.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So now we go to the default mode network and identification, because this is where this gets really kind of weird. So Libet was the researcher, and what he and he actually got awards for this research. What he discovered was, and basically what they were doing was they were measuring the EEG, the brainwaves, when a person made a decision. And the decision was to move their wrist somehow. I can't remember how exactly the experiment went. And what would happen was, a half a second before the person, quote, decided to move their wrist, the brain would fire to create to make the motor cortex start the action.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, this blew everybody's mind because what that suggested was there was no free will.
Right.
That the
Right.
person was becoming aware that they had decided a half a second before the actual action started to take place, and the
Yeah.
brain fired.
Yeah.
Okay, so now, and my natural conclusion before I started studying Fijine's work was, okay, so the self comes in a half a second later and there is no free will then. Something else is going on here. But then I figured
Right.
it out.
Mm-hmm.
So we've talked extensively about the default mode network in the brain. And the
Yeah.
default mode network includes a part of the brain called the medial prefrontal cortex, up in here somewhere. And what that does is it narrates the I, as if I'm struggling, or I'm this person, I'm Christina, I'm Mark.
Yeah. I want
And it
ice cream.
that's right. I want this, I want that. So it builds a story that we can identify with, but it's not the true self.
Right.
All it
Right.
does is it is a reflection of consciousness's current state. So it's a feedback loop. So
Yeah.
consciousness expresses itself in this survival motif,
Right.
survival scenarios, and the false self, the separate self says, you know, I'm having a really bad emotional reaction to this because my life sucks, which
Right.
gets fed back to consciousness, which gives you more.
Totally. Like, oh, my life sucks. Now everything I see is going to support the idea that my life sucks.
Right. And
Well, and you
so
know what's interesting about what you're saying is like when people are ready to heal, at least on my table, like when they're ready to let out a big emotional trauma, they first feel very safe. And I feel like that's such a good support to what you're saying. Like when people are ready to walk away from being stuck with this, they also feel safe. Like so without it, it was all survival. They didn't feel safe.
that's correct. And so, ironically, as you so often do, you have segued into the next step here.
Well,
But
I'm glad we have the same logic.
but before we go there, though, I want
Okay.
to make the point then. So so what it appears now is that the separate self is not creating reality at all. It's consciousness that has the free will.
Right.
And that free will is being exercised in the present moment when we're not aware of having a self at all. And then what happens is the default mode
Mm,
network with its separate self comes in and takes credit for it or complains
of
about
course.
it.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. It's got something to say.
Okay. So,
Okay.
hopefully these kind of discussions are of interest to you. Here's two characters that are not interested at all except for dog treats.
That's Jack on the left. He's a foster dog of ours, and that's my Sunny on the right side, and she's a Great Pyrenees. And right now they're a little tag team of disaster for my neighborhood. Just kidding. But they do get treats when you like and subscribe. So give it a little tap and they will thank you. And I was talking with Mark about it and we would like a vote. So if anyone likes the idea of seeing the dogs eat the treats at this point in the video, comment with a dog emoji. And also, thank you for all the subscribes because now they're getting to get a ridiculous amount of treats. So I might start changing it up after so many likes, their quality of treat raises.
Or maybe they're
Mark
going to have
said
to go on a
Sunny
diet.
called her. Yeah, yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Like, but anyway, if you like that idea of better treats, then comment with a fish emoji.
So I had a client yesterday ask me what my favorite seafood was,
What is
and
it? Oh, you don't like it?
I said, oh, I love seafood. I said crab,
Oh, okay. Uh huh.
and she said, why crab? And I said, I love to eat crab. And she said, oh my God, she's a vegan. She was horrified. She thought
Oh.
she wa- she just wanted me to pick a sea animal.
Oh,
Yikes.
that's
Okay.
funny. That's
All
hilarious.
right. So now we come to pretty much what Christina was alluding to, the awakening. Where'd I go here? Let me find out where I am. Oops, 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 oops. There we are. All right. So what is the question becomes a little earlier we talked about the medial prefrontal cortex being part of the default mode network, which creates the false self and the narrative about the self and all that.
Yeah.
There are two other parts of the prefrontal cortex called the dorsal lateral and the ventral media prefrontal cortex that are not part of the default mode network.
Okay.
And they're the parts that get activated when you experience an awakening.
Oh,
Now,
kind of
the
like up
point
in here,
it's right here, right up here in the front.
more in the front.
The prefrontal cortex is here, and it's
Oh yeah, the
divided into
frontal.
several parts.
Yeah, okay. So here.
And so when we do the thought watching exercise, we're activating this dorsal lateral and ventral medial prefrontal cortex to become the watcher, the observer.
That makes all the sense in the world. Okay. Yeah.
However,
So when you do the thought watching exercise, that's where you're feeling it.
right, but
Right.
another part of the prefrontal cortex is the medial prefrontal cortex, which helps tell the narrative of the false self. So
Right. Okay.
when
And it makes it
when
so logical.
yeah, well, this is what I was grasping for earlier in the week, trying to articulate this and figure it out. So when you have an awakening, one of the things that happens immediately is you realize you're not the voice in your head.
Yeah, which is
So
great.
there's this dramatic shift in the way the whole prefrontal cortex works
Right.
at that point.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is the prefrontal cortex wakes up and it sees that the narrator from the default mode network is not real. And you
Okay.
disidentify from the story
Yeah.
of me.
Okay.
Now this can happen in two steps. Number one, the first step is you realize you're not the voice in your head. And that in and of itself produces a gigantic awakening.
Yeah.
And then sometimes this happens all at once, sometimes down the road, you realize you're not the sense of self,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that you're actually observing the sense of self, and the sense of self is a construct.
Right.
And as we
Right.
established in part two, you cannot be present when you're experiencing that false sense of self.
Right. Yeah. You're too tethered.
Right. And so what we're
Yeah.
finding out today is you can't create reality by experiencing that false sense of self, that consciousness creates reality when that sense of self is pushed aside. Otherwise, it's focused entirely on creating survival scenarios.
Okay. And that makes a lot of sense too, because like when I started getting in touch with that deeper sense of myself, it was the one showing me where my life was off of base for what I would want. It was the one opening my eyes to
Right.
that the way I was doing life wasn't working. And
Mm-hmm.
when I listened to it, uh, my life would get better too.
That's exactly right.
And so it was like inspiring me, but at the same time, like same with my clients, like it also made me feel safe. And
Uh-huh.
so yeah, it's just seeming like safety is the way to get out of survival and into aspiration.
Which is, again, another segue into what we're going to talk about next. So what it turns out is that we're not creating reality. What we're doing is we're nudging consciousness by using awareness as a lens.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the prefrontal cortex acts as a lens after awakening. It reframes the default mode network story from I'm this to there's more.
Yeah.
So this new lens,
Okay.
insight and emotional clarity, is a feedback loop for consciousness, tilting it toward aspiration over survival. Now, the way
Okay.
I'm using the word aspiration here is going for something higher, bigger, philosophically more fulfilling.
Hmm.
Whereas before awakening, it's all about survival. And I see this in my office every day. People come in, their whole story is survival. That's the way consciousness is expressing itself in their lives, creating a reality. It's all about survival. My wife is
Yeah.
wrong and I am right. She needs to die so I can live. That's basically,
Hmm.
it's that fight or flight thing going on at some level all the time.
Right. Yeah.
So consciousness is entangled instead then with aspiration. And then there's an inner focus and it collapses into a reality of reaching and not reacting.
100%. Yeah. Beautiful.
So, and I can share a couple examples of how this has worked for me.
Yeah, do
So,
it.
well, one of the examples is just doing these programs. I mean, I
Hmm.
understand all these concepts, but Sunday night I've got an idea what I want to do, but I have no clue how I'm going to get there. But what
Mm-hmm.
I've realized is that if I just study this and ingest it and dialogue with it and work with it and then let it go, that that consciousness will always feed it back to me in a way that I can understand it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so like all week long I've been, kind of messing around with this, kind of trying to digest it, but I had confidence that by, Thursday night, we record on Fridays, by Thursday night this would come together.
Mm-hmm.
And you remember last night I sent you a text that I'd had a breakthrough, and
Mm-hmm.
as soon as I sat down to start putting this together, it's like two or three things just popped into my mind.
Yeah.
And I
No,
know
it's
that
so
wasn't
great.
me. That wasn't the
Just
little
tapping
me
into
doing
that.
that.
Yeah.
So that's an example. And I'm having more and more of those experiences all the time.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's kind of what happens when I work too on people. Like I walk up to their bodies and I don't know what we're working on that day. A common joke
Hmm.
within body work is that if you think you know what you're doing, then you have no idea.
Right.
But it's because like I get lost in the moment. Like I'm following something that's leading that I know I can tap into when I need to,
Um,
and
I
I'm in
think.
the moment when I do that.
Well, it's like when I
And it
when
does
I go ahead.
Oh, and it does lead to aspiration for people.
Right.
Like I touch their feet and then they start telling me about whatever and then they're like
Hmm.
letting go of it emotionally as they're able to get a new perspective and now they're like refreshed and rewired about this thing.
Well, it's for me. It's like when I met you. I've been trying to get this YouTube thing going,
Right.
and it suddenly dawned on me one day, and I'm sure this is from consciousness, that I needed to work with somebody. And then the question began, and I posed the question, okay, who am I going to work with? And I couldn't figure it out, but bam, there was your face. It was just right there, and I knew, okay, you might not be the one, but I have to make this contact. That this is I'm being told.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
This is a direct order.
yeah, exactly.
The direct yeah, matchmaker. Love that.
Okay, so one of the breakthroughs I had, I'll go back to this slide for a second. One of the breakthroughs I had this week was I realized, Federico Fagin is right. Consciousness is exercising free will, trying to experience more of itself and learn more about itself.
100% could see
But
that. Yeah.
but then I realized something else. Where is that supposed to lead?
Mhm.
And I
Mhm.
suddenly realized where it was supposed to lead. It's supposed to lead to oneness.
Mhm.
That ultimately what consciousness is trying to do is creating from all this complexity this unity of oneness, because
Right.
because that's its true identity. And so that leads me back to the girl and the strange man in the beret, with the beret. Well, the girl turns out to have been Jean Houston, and she's probably a
Mhm.
little before your time. But back in the early 90s or early 2000s, she was quite an item. This was a bestseller of hers, A Mythic Life, and
Mm.
she was the girl walking her dog in Central Park.
Mhm.
And you can tell just by looking at the title of this book what that encounter with that older man did. It changed the course of her life. Well, who is the older man and what's that got to do with oneness? Well, the older man was this gentleman. His name is Pierre Traird Desjardins.
Mm.
And Desjardins was a Catholic priest and a scientist whose work was suppressed by the Catholic Church, of course. And his theory, and this
Mm.
is the theme of his bestseller, The Phenomenon of Man. He was quite a thinker. His evolutionary perspective was a vision of the universe evolving toward greater complexity and consciousness culminating in what he called the omega point, the ultimate conversion of all existence with divine unity.
Mm.
And so I believe he was, right on target. And of course, the reason why one day he was no longer in Central Park to have his dialogue with the teenage girl and her dog was he passed away.
Yeah.
And she learned that later. Didn't even know who he was.
Wow.
Changed the course of her life.
That's a cool story.
So, so here we have, Fagin saying that, the purpose of consciousness is to experience itself and to become more aware of who or what it is. And Desjardins coming along saying yes, and that ultimately culminates in the omega point where all of existence becomes unified.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
Which I wonder if some people would call that the collective, or trying to find,
well,
I don't know,
but there's a
ways to
collective
understand
led
it.
by ego, and survival, and there's a collective led by the divine expression of each moment.
Interesting.
So imagine a society, not a society of a collective, but a society of each person understanding their own expression of consciousness and how that relates
Yeah.
to everybody else. That's a whole different way of living.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
We've got plenty of the old survival motivation going on right now, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, so what is the aspiration of consciousness? To know itself through the awareness of experience and ultimately as the unity of the one.
Yeah.
So, how do we craft our acceptance of reality? First of all, it's very important to understand the concepts in part two to enter the present moment.
Yeah.
And
And I'll say this, like knowing about what the thought watching exercise is, or the other disidentification exercise, and actually doing it 3 times a day for a month straight is an entirely different thing. And I would heavily encourage and cheerlead you on to sticking with it until that awakening happens. It's like a total game changer.
and that's by the way, that's what our Thought Masters community is all about: is to help people experience this awakening
Absolutely.
and enter into that.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea here is we cannot craft reality from the remembered past or the imagined future or from what the ego wants.
Right.
So if the ego wants more money, that's that is survival. That's motivated by survival. So what do we do here? So the first thing we do to craft our acceptance of reality is to recognize the false narrative or disidentify.
Mm-hmm.
And then engage the prefrontal cortex's true lens, which is awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And then reframing the story, tuning in how we see reality and amplify aspiration. Okay, let me give you a true life example of this.
Okay.
So right now, you and I are trying to establish this online community.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that is activating a long-held set of beliefs that I have that nobody will respond. Okay, so what am I doing with that? I'm acknowledging that that's there, but I also have confidence that I'm going to be shown a way to do this.
Mm-hmm.
And
Right.
so I'm amplifying that aspiration, and then I'm just completely letting it go. So it's like, what is the next step? Well, I don't need to know the next step until consciousness is ready to create it for me.
Yeah, like it'll be handed to you. You don't have to stress about it.
Exactly. And that's what we do.
Right. So, okay, I have a question though, because um, the last slide raised a question for me. So, you were saying you can't create your reality, but earlier today you were saying their consciousness created the reality of those disturbing pictures. So, do you more
Right.
mean like you can't create the reality you want, or you cannot create any reality before?
No, you cannot create reality, period. The you that you think you are cannot create
Oh,
reality.
right, right, right. It's consciousness.
It's only consciousness that's creating reality.
Right. Got it. Okay.
So what we can do is craft the way we accept it. For instance, you showed me a
Right.
video the other day, and one of the points of the video was you can't cram some goal in your head and then create reality. This is what everybody's
Right.
teaching you. It doesn't work. But what you can do is realize there are possibilities and start looking for the possibilities.
Right.
And what I'm saying is if you use the concept of unity, then you're moving to more of a we rather than me kind of a thing.
Mm-hmm.
So for instance, when I'm working on this situation with our online community, what I'm asking consciousness to show me is how do I help more people?
Right.
I'm not asking how to make the online community successful.
Yeah.
That's about me. But I'm asking
Right.
how can I help more people? Just show me how to help more people. Now
Right.
now consciousness knows that what frame of reference I'm coming from, so I don't
Right.
have to get into all that. But
Yeah.
and you know this too because your motivation's the same as mine. We're just trying to help more people.
Right. For sure. And I think you made a great distinction, which are you going to get into like saying side by side the primary goal of consciousness versus your default mode network?
Well, I thought I said it earlier. The primary goal is aspiration versus survival.
Yeah. Well, maybe you did, but yeah, exactly. And I think like seeing what your motivations are for
Right.
doing things is a way to tell which one you're coming from.
Absolutely.
Because if you find that you're trying to, um, one, just survive, or two, prove yourself so that you can survive, kind of a thing, that's all survival. And that like when you are more in touch with consciousness, that your actions will just be more naturally, like you said, like like how can I serve, what can I do?
Right. And I think
Yeah.
I think oh now it's slipping my mind what I was going to say. Oh, I think you know because you've been through this. Once you have the awakening experience, you know what your motives are.
Hmm. Yeah, for sure.
You can see them right away.
You get a whole like list of details about what your ego was doing to you when you
That's right.
were like asleep. So,
So consciousness unfolds. Reality comes from the collapse of the waveform through entanglement with survival or aspiration, but we don't
hmm.
create it.
Hmm.
Consciousness creates it.
Okay.
The prefrontal cortex shapes. The lens of self awareness reframes the false self, crafting how we accept what is unfolding.
Hmm.
And I think it nudges consciousness toward a more aware goal than survival.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, if this is the experience that I have with my inner wisdom when I'm in that deep meditative state, it 100% makes sense because I find that it's trustworthy, and
Mm-hmm.
it like the way that I do body work on myself, I can tap in like a few times a week. So if there's any
Mm-hmm.
new shift or whatever, like It's always on the cutting edge, and I feel as though it always is giving me the perfect lesson at the perfect time, which sometimes really sucks. But I've also learned that do trust it, and it's like, all right, just keep going. Like, what do I need to learn? How do I need to grow? That kind of
Yep.
thing. And then the result is more aspiration and less fear and survival. So I
Right.
feel like I'm like so close to the second awakening you speak of in the way that you speak of it, but I'm just not there yet. It's like I kind of see it, and I think at some point it's going to always be there.
But I like what you're saying because you're describing what aspirational awareness is like, because it's about asking what you're supposed to see, asking what you're supposed to learn, asking how you need to grow.
Yeah,
The ego, the default mode network, the false self wants what it wants. It doesn't care.
totally.
It doesn't want to learn anything.
Totally. I went to this marriage retreat thing one time, and they were using a book that said something like what is it like to live with me?
Yeah, right,
And even though I would, maybe not appreciate everything said at that conference now, I did appreciate that concept of like um, giving me a chance to get out of survival and think about something from my husband's perspective. Because
sure.
that was not natural for me.
No.
Like, yeah, so yeah,
All right,
love
final thought
that.
here. Acceptance evolves from survival's me to unity's we. And
Hmm.
consciousness knows itself through this evolution.
Hmm. Right. Love that.
So,
And
there's not any. I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, I guess so when I see that there's one thing I left unsaid before, and that is like uh if you are a service oriented person like Mark and I are, because we try to help other people for money. So like with our professions, he's a therapist, I'm a massage therapist. But if you're in the service industry, like one way to check to see where you're coming from is like what happens when it doesn't go well. Do you feel threatened, or are you able to like let it roll off your back and keep going? And that might be a good way to tell too, because it can be easy to be in the service industry and think I'm just giving without realizing like, well, I'm giving because I'm trying to be good enough, and that's the
Right.
ego.
That's right.
So just a little heads up to my people out there.
So if you need anything, let us know. Scan the QR code. It will take you to a form, and you can check some boxes, and we will respond. There will also be an email address in the description below. And again, we have the Thought Masters community. We'd love to have you join us. 14 days free. The founders right now get 50% off for life. And we're
Hmm.
really trying to build this. We invite you to come and join us. And we've got some pretty interesting stuff there.
Yeah.
Also, some of you know I've written some books. You can find them on Amazon. The Dance of the Lion and the Unicorn is about relationships. It's also available in an Audible book. And what else, Christina, before we say adios?
Mm, thanks for coming. Please let us know if you have any questions. We hope we see you again.
Thanks
I
so
don't
much
know.
for
What do you
your
think?
attention.
Yeah, for sure. It's an honor to bring these videos to you. Please like and subscribe. It really is helping us be able to give more time towards this to help more people. We really appreciate your support.
And as you're watching right now, you're going to see end cards come up for part one and part two. Please go and watch those. I think you'll find they're very interesting too.
Yeah.
All
Thanks for
righty.
journeying with us.
Bye bye.